everyone, and welcome to Thorough Newspaper Analysis, which is brought to you by Losico. So, today we have a lot of articles to discuss. The first one is from The Hindu, which is titled as The Challenges of Walking the Indo Pacific Talk. As now we know that very recently, India and USA in the 2 plus 2 ministerial meet have signed upon BECA, which is Basic Exchange Cooperation Agreement. Basically, many agreements have been lately signed to increase the influence and control of all these nations in the Indo Pacific region. But merely talking is not enough, and we need other factors as well, has been discussed in this article. Secondly, countering deep fakes, the most serious artificial intelligence threat. Now, this is something that is very important for us to know as to what do we mean by deep fakes and how they have come in a way in disguise as a hidden threat along with the artificial intelligence. Thirdly, victims' account may be more conclusive than medical finding. This is again from the Hindu, wherein the Supreme Court has again reiterated that whatever the statement victim has given against the accused holds a lot of importance, and it does not really need to be highly corroborated with any kind of medical finding, and it shall itself be considered as a very valid evidence for the guilt of the accused. And fourthly, unfinished task, which is from the Indian Express. This article discusses about the application of Uniform Civil Code, which under Article 44 of the Indian Constitution has been provided, and why providing exemption to some particular states or areas is, not egalitarian and equal in the nature. And finally, we have the news in flash, wherein we'll be discussing the small and crisp news points which are more important for a prelims exam. If you're also preparing for judicial services exam, then you can definitely have a look at our Losico course that we have for you, which is the judiciary test prep course. The link is there in the description box, and you can definitely have a look at it. From the landing page itself, you can download free study material for your preparation as well. You can also have a look at various other courses like for CLAT, All India Bar Exam, SEBI, etc. That can be very useful for you too. With this, let's see that what is the multiple choice question for the day. Deep fakes recently seen in news is related to first, water on moon, second, fake Google accounts, third, computational propaganda and disinformation, or fourth, none of the above. You can write your answer in the comment section below. This is the descriptive question for the day. Uniform Civil Code is the need of the hour. Critically analyze. Please keep in mind that whenever the question has this word critically explain or critically analyze, it means that you need to discuss both in the favor as well as against the given topic or the given statement. So you just don't need to write, comment in either side. You have to be very balanced in your approach and give pros and cons both of the particular idea. India versus China, Indo-Pacific talks. So this, first of all, before beginning with this entire discussion, let's understand as to which region on the world or on the world map are we actually referring to be the Indo-Pacific talks. Now this here is India, we all know, and this huge ocean over here is the Indian Ocean. All of us know about it. Then this side, as we know, is the western side of the Pacific Ocean, because if we move just right here, so it will be USA will be starting from here, United States of America, as in the Northern America and Southern America, the two continents. So the western part of the Pacific Ocean and almost the entire, but still the easternmost part of the Indian Ocean. So this area from the Indian Ocean and this area from the western part of the Pacific Ocean conclusively forms the Indo-Pacific region. So basically an amalgamation of the Indian and the Pacific region or the Pacific Ocean. So as we know that the recently concluded 2 plus 2 ministerial dialogue between India and US has amplified the ongoing talks on quadrilateral, Indo-Pacific and threat from China and the US as a potential alliance partner. Now, these are all in a way different ideas, but still we have, like, we at least, the Indo-Pacific powers, now be it India, be it Japan, Australia, USA, or even other, participants over here have made and have tried to make an amalgamation of all these issues. As we know about the Quad or the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue, of which India, USA, here India, USA on this side, Australia, and Japan over here. So they're all the partners of the Quad, but basically Quad is a military, alliance, and it actually provides military assistance to each other in times of war or even peace or crisis. Then we have the Indo-Pacific and threat from China. As we know, if we talk about this particular area, now see, there are a lot of bits and pieces actually that have come together, and it's also, it's very interesting to know that though the common target here seems to be China, and yet actually it is in some or the other way. But all these all these regions, or all these countries that are the part of Indo-Pacific region, or that actually are trying to bring it up their control in the Indo-Pacific region, have their different, very different reasons for fighting against China. Like if we take example for India, then India obviously currently is not holding very good relationships with China due to the Galwan Valley, or the entire, the standoff at the line of actual control. So all of us know that. Then, if we talk about other countries that fall in the Southeast Asian region, then the increasing influence of China in the South China Sea, and wherein it is trying to take up a lot of islands that are actually, being claimed by other nations also, or disputed islands like the Spratly and the Paracel Islands. So here also the presence of China is not being entertained a lot, though. And yes, and then I'll tell you the common point later on. And then if we talk about United States of America, so obviously USA does not like the increasing influence and the economic growth of China, because currently, whether we like it or not, or whether we agree to it or not, USA, has a lot of power. So, though we say that we are living in a multipolar world, and we are not in support of a unipolar world, of course we are not. But the entire influence that USA has in various world bodies. Now, you may take it to United Nations. You may also take to World Trade Organization, World Health Organization. You have seen the recent examples wherein every now and then, due to the huge funds that USA supplies to these huge international bodies, USA tries to paralyze these bodies completely if at all they try to function against United States of America. So that is why USA wants to maintain its own, unilateral control over the world order, and so it definitely is not liking the China's growth in this region. And furthermore, the US and China trade war, which we have been, extensively discussing, is definitely a huge reason to it. So this article actually tells about all these things, but then it says that it is very fascinating to know that all these nations, now be it India, be it Australia, Japan, USA, or all other nations, if you talk about from here, like Indonesia, or Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos is not really very much into this entire issue, but still, like Philippines and other countries, they are hugely dependent on China for their trade. So that is the exact thing that the author is trying to tell in here, that merely talking and engaging with each other to curb the growing influence of China is just not enough. Because obviously, if you are not economically independent and sound, and you are depending on that nation who you're actually targeting against through these pacts, or these verbal or some kinds of exercises, then it's totally, in the long run, it's futile. Because if at all you do not have any alternative right now to take up China's role, and China is the country which you're also trying to put down. So this is something very ironical. And the author says that if at all you really want to form a multilateral order, or just in case put down China's influence in the Indo-Pacific region, then at least you should make sure that the nations that are completely engaging, or that are actively engaging in these kinds of activities, now be it Quad or the BECA, like India and US, and then again other partners in the alliance of Indo-Pacific region. So it is very desirable that you not only make your military and other kinds of coordinations and collaboration strong, but also you ensure that you depend less and less on China for any kinds of goods and services. So here, again, a difference has been drawn, and even the similarities have been drawn between the Quad and the Indo-Pacific, this entire alliance. So the similarities between them are: Quad's members are also the major states in the Indo-Pacific region. Now, as we just discussed, be it India, Australia, US, or Japan, they're also very important players in the Indo-Pacific alliance. Then both have focused on China now, because the agenda may be different, but somehow the target is on China. And then both centered around India's geographic location and its policies. Now, because obviously, if you want to function actively in the Quad, or if you want to function actively in the Indo-Pacific region alliance, India and the location, or the locational reach that India has, is very strategic for both the locations. Because obviously, India is known to be the queen of Indian Ocean, because you can see entirely there is nothing else but India in the Indian Ocean over it, at least on this side. And obviously, if when we have Andaman and Nicobar Islands on the southeastern side of India, it gives us a very extensive and positive hold on this region, and that is why India's military as well as strategical location and involvement is very necessary for the success of both these ideas. And if we talk about the differences, Indo-Pacific is a politico-economic vision, whereas Quad is a military strategic vision. Now, as we just discussed, then Indo-Pacific provides a complex political and economic picture, like growing articulation of China as a strategic challenge, whereas Quad is inherently anti-China. So here in Indo-Pacific alliance, they do not really expressly come up as that we want to retaliate the the growth of China, so on and so forth, but in there is an undertone, there is a hidden agenda of putting down China and its growth. But when it comes to Quad, it actually is inherently considered to be as an anti-China military movement, and even many a times China has pointed out Quad to be, as it is also named Quad to be, as the Indo-Pacific NATO. So just like we have the non-Atlantic North Atlantic Treaty Organization, of which various countries in the Atlantic Ocean are the part of, which is considered to be as threat against one country is considered to be threat against all the member countries. So China says that similar is the position of Quad, wherein threat against, for example, if there is threat against India, then all Australia, China, Australia, Japan, and USA will be considered as one party, and then they'll be retaliating the common aggressor. So that is the idea, and that is why it is very much different from the Indo-Pacific alliance. Now, these we have almost discussed that what are the hurdles in realizing the strategy through the Indo-Pacific. Like we have weak economic partnership and linkages. Now you can definitely go through this. This is really, really nice data over here. So this is the trade exchange of India, and this is for China. And these are all the main countries that are part of the Indo-Pacific Alliance. And this is the value of trade that both India and China share with these countries. Just taking an example, if we talk about US, because it is being the biggest player in both these areas, be it Quad or Indo-Pacific Alliance, India has a trade value of only $87.96 billion, whereas China, even after the trade war, has this entire trade value with US as at $737.1 billion. Like, it is way more than what India has. And you can compare it to any other country. Just in the case of Maldives, China does not have a growing trade with Maldives. Other than that, it is almost like 10 times, 3 times, 4 times more than what India has trade over these with these countries. So that is why, if at all India wants that these countries would come up in favor of India to curb China, if in case India would need that support, then India should take in mind that China is a very important resource for all these nations, and if at all they would want to make it angry, they will have to think at least twice, and even several times, because they are heavily dependent on China for their trade value. So this is very important. And then poor military reach as well. China is a major defense supplier to most of these countries, whereas India does not really enjoy that relationship. So obviously, if at all they have to fight against China, they will be needing the arms and ammunitions, of which China itself is one of the biggest producers or the suppliers to these countries. So here is a very vicious cycle in which India might get churned. So India should be very careful about any steps that it takes. And then it says the sustainable engagement in Indo-Pacific region, be it economic, strategic, and military, versus easy military alliance with the US must be kept in mind. So, we should be very careful of what steps do we take in this region, since India is the most immediate partner as compared to any other nation in the Indo-Pacific region of China. With this, let's discuss the second article for the day, which talks about countering the deepfakes, which is related to the artificial intelligence. So deepfakes are a new tool to spread computational propaganda and disinformation at scale and speed. So basically, just as you can see in here, you can just see this is the original picture of Vladimir Putin, who is the president of Russia, and this is the original one. And actually, this entire picture had been put up on Trump's picture, so Trump on Putin. So this is seeming to be so original, but actually this is a deep fake. So what actually they do is that the faking of any kind of face or any kind of photos, data, audio, videos. It seems so original that for a common viewer, common man as a viewer, it becomes really, really very difficult to differentiate between a real news or a real video or a fake video. And many a times, the implications, as we see, we'll also be discussing that the biggest implication of these is either in the political arena, or if we talk about it, is in the pornography, especially concerning the women. So the implications or the possible effects are: for individuals, it inflicts emotional, reputational, and reputational violence. And then targets especially women, if we talk about any kind of photo bombing or photo morphing, or if we talk about pornography, then also. And deployed to extract money, confidential information, and extract favors. Now if I talk about specifically about women, many cases have recently also come up wherein various Bollywood actresses were targeted through these deep fakes in various kinds of pornography or pornographic films, wherein they were actually not at all involved in such activities, but still the pornographies or the videos appeared to be so original that it actually deteriorated their image and reputation as individuals. And then for businesses, it the falsity is profitable for social platforms. Like, you must have seen many a times that that bogus message that comes on our WhatsApp. It has been coming since years now, that some stupid worker of some Coca-Cola, or be it, you can even name any agency or any company that you would want to defame, has put his aid infected blood in, you know what I'm talking about, right? So that is something, even that had so much of effect on the people when they used to read those messages. Imagine that now, if complete fake videos or audios or such informations are available, and they actually try to put down any growing business or business of your rivals. So in such case, businesses can also be hampered severely through deep fakes. And through institutions, short and long-term social harm and accelerate the already declining trust in news media. Like, for example, if there is genuinely a very honest police officer, or a very honest IS officer, or any bureaucrat, any politician, anyone for that matter, and someone is really jealous of the trust that people have in him or her, and then a particular video of him taking some kind of corrupt involving himself into corrupt activities, or taking some kind of bribe or anything, is just regulated over WhatsApp and other social media sites. So can you imagine that entire institution, the entire police system, or the entire bureaucratic system, or the leadership of the country can be put to question? And then democracy as well, because whenever there are the times of elections, then there are a lot of propaganda which are played by the rival parties, and this menace of deepfakes can also be used for manipulating the will of the voters as well. So here are some solutions that are provided in this article. It says that proper legislative regulations should be taken after a collaborative discussion with all the stakeholders. And if in case anyone is caught doing this kind of, spreading this kind of misinformation or disinformation, then it should be very, it should be punishable, and a proper statute should be there relating to this problem. Second, platform policies should be there, like various platforms which actually are responsible many a times for such social media news, like WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, be it any social media platform. So they should also have proper policies in order to check that no fake news is actually floating on their platform. Thirdly, technology interventions. Like very recently, WhatsApp had made this initiative wherein it has put a bar on the number of times a particular message can be forwarded, and if at all it crosses that bar, then it actually alarms the authorities in WhatsApp, and it gets to know that this particular message is spreading. Also, many a times, there are particular websites, that are specific websites that are available, wherein you can upload the news article which you have received, or any kind of information that you have received, and it will actually fact check that entire thing. The one name that I can recall is Factly, if I'm not wrong. But if in case I'm able to find the right names, we'll definitely, we'll try to put them in the further videos, so that you also can, maybe you encounter some fake news, you can definitely check out the veracity of that news in those platforms. And then finally, media literacy. Obviously, like at least, media literate people like you and I must be responsible enough before forwarding any particular information. Like, for example, just 2 minutes ago, Indian national anthem has been declared the best national anthem of the world, or Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been awarded with so and so award. So we should be very careful before we spread. These are still of very little, still of very little just to say seriousness, but still there can be anything about anyone, and we should be very aware about such news. And so we should try to inculcate the media literacy into people. With this, let's discuss the next article for the day, which talks about the general medical legal status. So the alleged gang rape of women in Hathras, UP, has brought forth issues concerning the relevance of forensic evidence of the rape victim. Now, as we know that in this case also, according to the postmortem report, it is said that no rape was actually committed in this case, and so the entire case is trying to fall. The prosecution or the defense is trying to make this case fall very weak. So here are some important things that are related to the collection of evidence and the relevance of those evidence. First, spermatozoa. So it is identified only after 72, only for 72 hours after sexual assault. So basically, the sperm, the semen of the assaulter or the person who actually committed rape is collected, and then it is made to match with the DNA of the accused, whoever are there in the accused list. So then if the match is done, then obviously it is proved that the rape was committed by that particular person or persons. But still the swabs can be, now even after 72 hours have passed, because the verifiability of the spermatozoa is best only till the time of 72 hours, that is 3 days. But even after that, the swabs can be collected, and evidence of the outer body and clothing can be collected even after 96 hours. So Supreme Court says that the absence of live or dead spermatozoa is irrelevant. So obviously it says that it makes no sense. And even mainly in this article, the point that has been highlighted is that the most important thing is that what the victim has said in her statement. Then the value of victim statement. So it was in State of Punjab versus Gurmeet Singh that the victim's ipse dixit is sufficient to record a conviction. So it says that even if there is a statement which is still unproven and given by the victim, it will still be considered to be as a sufficient evidence to record a conviction, and no corroboration is necessary in this regard. Then here there are some changes that took place in the rape law. So till 1983, there were no changes as such, and in the Mathura case 1978, the burden of proof was shifted to the accused, and in the Nirbhaya case 2012, the expression sexual intercourse was removed from the definition of rape, because it said that it is not necessary that a union of the sexual organs must have been taken place, and only that would be a conclusive proof of the occurrence of rape. And finally, let's discuss the fourth article for the day, which talks about the Uniform Civil Code. So basically, it says that Article 44, as we know, the DPSP discusses about the Indian Constitution, and it relates to the Uniform Civil Code. And it says, understood as a directive to repeal traditional personal laws, like currently we have Muslim personal laws and Hindu personal laws, they're all different from each other. And the replacement should be done by a Common Family Law Act. And it says that it should actually ignore the words throughout the territory of, actually it is ignoring the words throughout the territory of India, which actually is not a good step. Because here the author says that some states are exempted from implementing the common family laws, and this is actually against the fundamental right to equality before law and Article 44 as well. So here some exceptions are provided to which states earlier. So as we know, Jammu and Kashmir, now it has been repealed, all of us know. Then the Renonkins of Pondicherry, because the French gave the local population to choose between personal laws or the Code Napoleon of 1804. Pondicherry Laws Act in 1968 did not apply for the Renonkins. Then Goa, Daman and Diu, it was recognized by Portuguese rulers. It recognized even after the Union of India. And then we have the final one, which is the Nagaland and Mizoram. They have also been provided with separate exemptions from the Uniform Civil Code. So here the only thing that the author says in this article is that it is of utmost importance that if at all we really want to make the idea of Uniform Civil Code successful and actually want to bring it at full length, it should be brought equally in the entire nation, so that there is no feeling of biasness or impartiality amongst the people. News in flash. So we have first, we have satellite EOS-01. So ISRO will launch its latest Earth orbit observation satellite, which is the EOS-01, and 9 international customer spacecraft on board PSLV C-49 from Sriharikota, Andhra Pradesh on November 7, 2020. So basically EOS, which or the Earth Observation Satellite 01, is intended for application in agriculture, forestry and disaster management, because obviously it can forecast the various changes taking place on the Earth, and so it can give us an alarm even before any kind of flood or any kind of cyclone takes place for that matter. So this was all for today. We hope it was a good session for you. Stay tuned with Law Seekho for such more sessions to come. Thank you so much.